All right, so this should be a pretty quick video. What I'm going to show you now in stage 3 is rounds. So rounds. Even though right now I have a parallel line drawing where all the lines are parallel to one another, I'm just going to demonstrate what a round is. A round is basically rounding off two straight lines that meet at a common edge. So if I round this off here, and then I erase that edge, I curve that form. However, I need to do that the same on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that line back in because it's going to help me kind of visually measure the distance between here and here and here and here. So in order to replicate this same curve on the other side, I could just wing it and be like, it looks good to me. But you want to replicate that same curve on the other side. So what you're going to have to do, see this line here? You're going to have to go over in the same direction. That's where it starts to deviate from that line. And then see this where it starts to enter back into the line? You have to go back up in that same direction and you put a little dot. And then see the distance between here and here? Now you can just kind of eyeball that. So I just gave myself 3 dots that I can just follow and make a nice curve. That's very similar to the curve there. And then after that, you can start to round things out. And then you have this more complex form. There's a lot of things that you can do. So what if I decided to round the form here? I go from this corner and I just kind of decide to round it that direction. And if you round it in on one side, again, you're going to have to repeat that same thing on the other. I do not recommend to wing it. So what I'm going to do, because you need this line here on this side, so I'm just going to pull that line down. And what I'm going to do is, right here is where it starts to kind of enter back into the form. So I'm going to run a line over to the other side, just put a little dot here. And this is pretty simple because that's where it starts. And then I'm looking at this to here. It's about that deep. So it just gave me my blueprint of how I'm going to follow those lines. And then you take out the geometry, the hard edge portion that you no longer need. In a matter of seconds, I have this kind of cool curvilinear form. So that's basically rounds. Rounds are just, again, you have 2 straight lines. Round is just making a round and eliminating the corner. So, how do you do that in perspective? You might have some parts that look like this. You should have invented some forms, so you can kind of play around with that. But this is just to give you tools, so later on you can say, oh, that would look good as a round. So right here, what can I do as a round? I mean, I can just round, this is going to be really simple. I could just round this form here. It's going to probably look like a cell phone or an iPad. And I'll round this side. I'm glad I'm doing this right here because I'm going to have to show you how you would have to draw that in transparently. So, since I rounded this, another thing that you should definitely, I always do this upside down, know is, that's for color pencils, sharpen your pencils. Keep your pencils nice and sharp. Otherwise you get this thick line, it's hard to see what you're actually doing. Okay, so now I'm just going to bring it down to the other side. Because it's so close, I can kind of be like, yeah, that's where the vanishing point is. But I should show you how to do this the right way. So you're going to put a little dot here, and then you see this is where it comes in. Put a dot right here, because it's so close. If it's far away, then I would say, yeah, definitely use a ruler. Because it's so close, it's not a big deal. And then I'm looking at distance between the corner and where I drew the curve. And I'd say if I'm looking at the other side, it seems about that far away. And then I gave myself a blueprint for putting the curve in. And then I follow the curve, and I have a nice curve there, and I can take out the hard edge part. Now, this is where a lot of people make mistakes. This little section here, and I'm wondering if I can do it there. Yeah, I would have to do it here too. Even though you can't see because this big rectangle is in front of this, but see this little curve I made here, right? I need to do that on the other side. However, you have to draw in the transparent back plane because that's what you're curving. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that corner and I'm going to connect it to the vanishing point. This line here is basically the same as this line here. That's the front of the cell phone. Let's just call it a cell phone. So basically what I'm doing is the same thing. You're going to take this, connect it to here, and all you're doing is just trying to find a little dot because you're just repeating that on the other side. Connect this one, connect it here. It's all basically in one line. And then I'm looking at the distance here. So it's basically, it's going to look like this. That's what it's going to look like. And then after that, see these two little bumps there? It didn't work out to what I thought I was going to do. I cut the corner too much because it should line up as I sure my pencil and it's like at 2 different points. Annoying. There we go. So now I'm going to bring it down to the vanishing point. There we go. So do you see how it meets up? And to be honest, you don't even need this little part. What people commonly do when something's like that is they'll just round this into that and it just does not look correct. You have to do the exact same thing on the opposite side as if it's a transparent form. Otherwise it looks really odd. Same thing would happen here if I were to round this here, right? Because this would go back in space. You have to draw the other side as if it's transparent. So the other side, see this corner here? That would go to the right vanishing point down here, and you're basically doing the same thing. It's going to look like that, and then hopefully these guys will connect. There you go. So you have your cell phone kind of design there. So that is definitely, and if you didn't get that, let me just make an example here. Say if I wanted to, I'm just going to take this out. Forget this part. Just look at this here, right? Let's just say this is my form I'm making. Forget all of this. Nothing. It's all in video. It's all good. What I would do there is round this form off here, right? So the first round is just you making a round. The second round, you have to replicate that same round. So in order to replicate it on the other side, you see where these two meet here? I would drop a line straight down. And you're basically going to make a round here, but you have to mimic the same stuff that's happening on this side. So basically you're going to run this over to the other side, because this is where it starts to come back in the form, and you put a little dot, and you run this over to the other side. It just so happens it all lines up in the same area. And then you look at this between here and here, and you just eye it, and you're like, it looks good to me. And then you can make your round. So you can kind of see that I made my round, and I would make it transparent. You wouldn't see it all, because what you do is you connect the two most outer points here, like this so, and then you erase this part here. Now it looks like a piece of toast. So this line will fade into that straight line that I created, and then it just fades back down, and that's how you get that curve. And if you look at the transparent line, you could see it would go down here as well if it was transparent. That's what I was trying to do here, but it's not easy because it's so small. It's difficult to see. Now, other ways of inventing a form. You could round this guy out here, even though you can't even see the other side that much, but that would be round, kind of like curves down there. You can also add rounds, like for example, see how this is a negative space here? So if something looks like this, you can add. I mean, if you look at this way, you're just taking it away, but if you look at this way, you add. So you can just like add a bit of a round here. This is really subtle, but you can add a round, and then you can take a round away. So now I just made this like a really curvilinear form, just by softening the edges. So the reason I'm showing you this, everything is derived from a rectangle. You start with a rectangle, you break it down more, you break it down more, you can start applying rounds, you can do this, you can do that, and you get these really complex, interesting forms. All right.